So we continued on with this refutation of your free trade opinions, and we see in our previous videos that through the division of labor, society is better off, even though people within the society have quote-unquote less work to do, and certain individuals within the society may be unemployed altogether. We see that with the proliferation of knowledge, products that were previously unavailable to the masses become available to the masses, leading to a higher standard of living, and that knowledge is now in the hands of many individuals where it was concentrated in only one to start with. We see in the macroeconomic history of the United States of America, we see how jobs go from one industry to another in these transition periods when the great sums of labor are no longer required in one industry due to the proliferation of knowledge, and through competition things get more efficient. Jobs actually shift from one industry to another, as they did from the agricultural industry into the industrial age in this country, and it's very easy to see when we look back up on it. So how does that relate to today? What is happening today, Paleo, is we're in the middle of another transition, and most of it has already occurred, from industrial into information, into the information age. And through the proliferation of knowledge, the rest of the world has caught up to us in a lot of these industrial products. But specifically, we can talk about the car. You know, there was a time when Japanese made cars, but they were far inferior to the cars that we made here. But they've had this technology for so long. The technology to build a car has been out there so long. They have perfected it to where they are just as good at making a car as we are. So the market has begun to buy more of their cars than they're buying from Detroit. And so unless we want to co-opt the free will of actors within the market, we have to say that for some reason, whether they are actually better quality or whether they just prefer them, the market prefers these other cars, not altogether, but at a higher rate than they previously did, which is going to affect Detroit. And so there are less jobs now needed to be allocated to making cars with the big three or in quote-unquote Detroit, because through the division of labor and the proliferation of knowledge, these products can be provided better, more efficiently, etc., by other sources. And so we're in the middle of this transition period from industrial to information technology, and we can see in the past how good it was for our standard of living and how good it was for us as a society, for those jobs to move from agricultural society into the industrial age. It provided us with a standard of living and a period of prosperity that's unrivaled in our country's history. But it's more difficult when we're in the middle of a second transition that we can't see. We can't look back and see how all the jobs switched from the industrial age into the information age, because we're in the middle of it. And certain people are especially in the middle of it because it's their jobs that are being transitioned. But we still have to believe, and we still have to know from past experience, that it's more profitable for us, for society, to move and for those jobs to be swept back up into industries that will provide us with an even higher standard of living. It's hard for people in Michigan to see that happening because it's such a concentrated area that had been involved in one industry. But it's more difficult for the people to see, like in Oklahoma where I work. There's articles in the paper all the time about their expanding biotechnology industry, their aeronautics industry. The energy industry is sweeping up a lot of jobs right now. And I just did an online search for emerging jobs and emerging industries, and I came up with a list over a couple different articles of jobs that are heavy growth, predicted to be heavy growth over the next 10 years or so. Pharmaceuticals, biotechnology, nanotechnology, aeronautics, energy, engineering, consulting, information technology. Now these jobs are going to be the high growth jobs. You gave me a list of jobs that were going to be the most in demand, but I think that is in demand by number. Waitresses, janitors, these jobs have been in demand for 80 years now, and they'll continue to be in demand for 80 years now. But the numbers of jobs does not indicate areas of job growth. The new jobs that will be expanding and that the workforce will be caught up into will be the pharmaceuticals, the biotechnology, these advanced type of industries. And so you even say up to a point, we believe in technology, we believe in free markets, we believe in capitalism up to a point, but that point seems to always come when it affects you. Everybody out at the Michelin tire factory doesn't like progress when the Japanese can build a tire just as good as us because it threatens our job. But we don't see that everybody in America can get a better, cheaper tire for the same quality, and we don't want it. We want to shut down the Japanese. We want people to buy American, yada, yada, yada. But what we really need to do is conform what we provide to the market. Maybe, in other words, we should have not just finished high school. We should have gone to college, got a degree. Then we'd be able to get something in engineering, pharmaceuticals, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it's easy to rail against the consequences of the free market when it affects you. But it's easy to see. It's so easy to see in the transition from agricultural to industrial how much we benefited from that. And the thing is, you talk about regional identities. I think regional identities is total bunk. You've enjoyed a regional identity of, let's say, car manufacturing and producing grain for so long because you were good at it. You were better than the rest of the markets at that. And you're not guaranteed that status forever. Through the proliferation of knowledge, people catch up to you, and you have to beat them. You have to do better. And if you're not doing that, you change. People, and I work in Oklahoma, and you can't talk to somebody in Oklahoma without them mentioning a cousin, an aunt, uncle, grandma, grandpa, some type of connection to California. Why is that? Because in this country's history, when there were no jobs in Oklahoma, we were oil in Oklahoma, they were agriculture in Oklahoma, those industries dried up for a time period, and there was no work in Oklahoma. They didn't just say, oh, look, everybody's taking our oil identity, everybody's taking our grain identity, nobody wants to buy this stuff. They went to California, and they sought out jobs there. You're not guaranteed a job in Michigan as a car builder for the rest of your life. You're not guaranteed that. I have a friend that won't eliminate welfare because he has people he knows, like this teacher, single mom that is a teacher on the south side of Chicago. And all in the good areas, there's so many applicants for school jobs. The only good school jobs left out are the jobs in the ghetto. Well, you're not guaranteed a school teacher's job on the south side of Chicago. Sometimes you have to go to where there are school teachers' jobs. If the world instantly preferred ethanol tomorrow over oil, Texas would no longer have an identity as an energy-producing state. Kansas and Nebraska would. You see what I'm saying? Iowa would. They'd be looked at as the energy capitals of the United States. Nobody's guaranteed a regional identity. You only have that identity because you're providing things for the market better than other people. So to somehow say that the progress of free trade has thrown aside all considerations of regional identity and stuff like that is total bunk. Thomas Sowell, just to throw this in, says that since 1984 or 1981, I can't remember, salaries, real wages, adjusted for inflation, have risen 24%. Do you think these same jobs, the industrial aid jobs industry, the McDonald's jobs, the janitor's jobs, do you think these jobs have given their employees raises that beat inflation by 24% over those years? No, it's because they've gone into emerging markets that provide a higher standard of living, that are more in demand, that provide higher technology products and things like this. And they are like Gutenberg at first with the press. These emerging markets have a higher market share. They're paying higher wages in these markets, and they're allowing jobs that had been caught up in other industries to be caught up into these higher paying markets. So this process is difficult for people in Michigan, but we have to allow it to go on. We can't shut down free trade. If we shut down every time if free trade affected somebody in that way, we'd shut it down altogether, because it's always going to affect somebody. And you can't just shut down free trade because it affects you. But my time is out. One final question go on my next video, okay?